Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome back to my live stream. My name is Tyler Ramsbey. A special hello to those of you watching the actual live stream happening as it happens. And I do want you to know that I am live streaming right now to 3 different platforms. So you're welcome to join on whichever platform works best for you. I am live right now on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and on Twitch. And then as usual, this recording will be posted afterwards on my YouTube channel. So if you have not subscribed to me on YouTube, make sure you go ahead and do that. That is my primary platform. But for today's stream, what I'm going to attempt to do, if my Windows VM wants to cooperate, is we're going to change it up. So we've been doing a lot of try hack me, some hack the box. We're going to do some Azure pen testing. Now, I'm sure you've heard of Azure. Azure is like Microsoft's cloud offering. So there's kind of 3 kings when it comes to cloud stuff. You have AWS, kind of the big king. You have Azure, which a lot of corporations use. And you have GCP, which is the Google cloud offering. And I currently do AWS pen testing as part of the pen testing that I do. And I'm moving into learning Azure pen testing. And I want to share with you a platform I found really helpful that is completely free. At least the labs I'm going to do right now are free because I don't have a paid subscription to this platform. And I was super impressed how well done it was. So I want to show that to you all. The only problem is my Windows VM here has been super buggy. So I spent like the past 20 minutes messing around with VirtualBox trying to get it to work properly, and like it's at least working now, but it might break. And if it does, we'll just pivot and do something else. But the lab environment, I'll get it pulled up for you guys. Turn the music down a little bit. There we go. Okay, so it's pwnedlabs.io, if my memory serves me correct. Yes, so this. I stumbled across this on LinkedIn because someone posted a bunch of cloud resources on LinkedIn or learning AWS, and they actually included some of my videos in that. And I was reading through the comments trying to figure out like what are some platforms I haven't heard of, and this is one I hadn't heard of, but I have found it super helpful in the cloud world and a lot more affordable than other platforms. So they have quite a few free labs that cover those different cloud platforms, but if you get a subscription, I believe you can get access to all their labs, but the subscription is only $20 a month. A lot of the other cloud training costs way more than that for a subscription. So I have found this really helpful. So it's pwnedlabs.io. And once again, the lab that we are going to do is completely free. And I do want to give it this caveat. Usually I dive into things completely blind and you see me stumble my way through it for the first time. I did do this particular lab ahead of time, just actually during the day today while I was at work learning Azure type things. But the VM that we're on right now is not set up at all for Azure. So you will be able to watch me stumble through things because all my tools for Azure pen testing are on my Windows VM, on my work computer. This is basically a vanilla VM, not much is on it. So we will have to install a bunch of tools, and I'm sure we'll have some issues in the process as we usually do. But before we do that, I'm going to sign in. And actually just going to stop sharing my screen just for a moment while I get signed in here. Give me just a little bit because I don't have the stuff in this VM. Get that MFA accepted real quick. Oh, come on, Chrome. What are you doing to me, bro? No. Don't open up. Sorry. I'm almost there. It just errored out, so I might have to do the process again. Oh, no, I'm to the dashboard. Fantastic. So here is what it looks like when you are signed in. You can see they have quite a few labs. The free ones, of course, are ones that you can do for free. I don't currently have a subscription, but I probably will get a sub just based on like the quality of the free offerings. And so like we can pick our team, but we can pick our platform. So what I'm learning is Azure. I didn't even know they had web stuff. One second, let me see their web stuff that they have here. Oh, nothing. So maybe that's something they're adding in the near future is web stuff. What are others? Nothing for others? Okay. So still seems like a pretty new platform, but I really enjoyed the Azure labs I've done so far. I did this one, but the one I want to walk you all through is this one because I thought it was so cool. Loot Exchange Teams in SharePoint with GraphRunner. So we're going to click Start Pwning. And actually, before we even start pwning, we do have to get a bunch of tools downloaded. And well, let's start the lab, and we'll figure those tools out as we go. So when we turn lab on, it gives us some initial Azure credentials. So we have Clara Miller and Mega Big Tech 99. And what I really love about this is it gives you a full scenario. So I've done some other labs, like through Altered Security is another spot that offers Azure labs, but they're not realistic. They're very CTF-y, and it's usually like do this one thing. It's not an entire scenario put together. So I really like this platform because of the way it lays out this scenario. So here's our scenario. And I think today I might actually take our notes with the OneNote because I don't have my Kali VM open. So here is our OneNote. So I used to take all my notes here on OneNote. We'll go back to it just for old time's sake. All right, I don't care if you can't sync, dog. And we'll start a new one here. Can I make this leave? Hold up. Let me just sign into OneNote so it stops bothering me with its silly pop-up. Give me just a second. Actually, I don't even know. I don't have that. I don't have my password manager on this computer, so I can't sign into OneNote. So we'll just ignore that warning. So we'll just call this Azure, and then we'll record our notes here as we work our way through it. But we have this full scenario. So here's our scenario. Our red team, that is us, is on an engagement and has successfully phished a mega big tech employee to gain their credentials. That's what we have up there. So far, increasing access within Azure has reached a dead end, and you, that's us, we have been tasked with unlocking further access. In scope is the entire on-prem and cloud infrastructure. Our goal is to gain access to customer records and demonstrate impact. So we have these learning outcomes here. So I'm just going to copy this information and we'll drop it in our notes here. I don't like it that way. Can I just paste just text? There we go. So there's our scenario, and we should probably get our credentials pasted in there as well. We have this for our username, and our password is that. Okay, that clearly didn't copy. Oh, I copied the wrong thing because I'm really smart. All right, I'll pull it over to the side screen. What up, chat? Lots of people popping in now. Special hello. We got Nox Lubins, we got Josh, we got Teraflops, we got Sats, we got Code with me. Dude, 3 in the morning? Bro, you crazy. Or girl. I don't know if you're a boy or girl. I don't want to assume. Let me check out LinkedIn, make sure I'm not missing anything over in the LinkedIn world. Hey, did you guys see Try Hack Me's release? I don't know if you guys were on my stream last night, but someone's like, yo, Try Hack Me got hacked, and they dropped like a Twitter post, and I looked at it and I was like, it's totally made up screenshots, it's a scam. I even showed where I think they took the screenshots from, and Try Hack Me came out with a post today saying based on their investigation, it's a full scam. No one has gotten root on Try Hack Me. And yo, Try Hack Me should just pay me. I did the investigation for them on stream last night. What up, Zap? Welcome. Today, if you guys are just tuning in, we are switching it up and we're actually doing Azure pen testing if my Windows VM cooperates. I've had a lot of issues with this VM, so if it completely breaks, then screw it, we'll do something else. But so far, so good. We have our lab launched up, but you can already tell we need quite a few tools. In order to interact with Azure, we actually need to install a few different modules for PowerShell. And the way we're going to do that, I'm actually going off memory, so I might totally mess this up, is we need to first open up PowerShell as an admin. All right, I'll make this a little bit bigger for you all so you can see it. Let's do 20. Maybe a little bit bigger. 24. I like that. What's the best resources for Azure pen test? You know, that's what I'm kind of learning myself, and we're going to go through some of those today. So stay tuned. We're going to get hands-on with what I would consider some of the best resources in the stream today. So we'll learn it together. But we have to install module. I think it's just called AZ for Azure. Fingers crossed. Yes, and we'll do A for yes to all. And hopefully it installs. Hopefully it does something. Maybe. What is this? Close that. The other thing we want to install is the AZ CLI, or the command line interface. Let's see how we install it. That's hurting my eyes. There we go. That's going through. Beautiful. Install on Windows. Do we have an MSI? Okay, cool. We do. Latest version. Let's get this downloaded and installed. What knowledge of Azure is required to start with Pentest in Azure? So I would say at least like AZ900 and AZ500 knowledge. AZ900 is the intro to Azure. AZ500 is the security cert in Azure. But then you also just need to know general pen testing. So from my opinion, you don't just jump into cloud pen testing. You need a good solid understanding of like your on-prem pen testing, web app pen testing in particular before you jump to cloud stuff. And then you can apply some of that knowledge over to cloud. All right, how's our PowerShell going? All right, that's still installing. Let's get our CLI installed. This is so we can interact with Azure accounts from the command line interface in addition to the PowerShell module, because depending on what we're doing, one might come in handy better than the other. Might take a little bit though. No, we just stare at it. Turn up the music. We all listen to the music a little bit. Yo, what's up, protagonist? Thanks for popping in, my friend. We're actually doing some Azure pen testing, but what that requires is installing a lot of stuff to our VM. And so it's quite boring right now as we install things. So we're just hanging out, listening to music. I'm getting things pulled up on my side screen real quick. Make sure you don't hear myself talking. I was just pulling up YouTube. Oh, sweet. You have almost 20 people on YouTube. That's awesome. Then a handful of people on LinkedIn and Twitch. This will eventually finish, y'all. I think. I don't remember how long it took, honestly, the first time I did this. We do have the AZ CLI installed. And Chaotic 9993. That's what's up, dude. That's who I was before Papa Shell. But installing things is how you look like a real hacker. Absolutely is how you look like a real hacker. Okay, I think it's just about done. And if you remember right from looking at our scope, there's a bunch of other tools that we want to install here. So we have this MFASweep, we have GraphRunner. Yo, GraphRunner is one of the coolest Azure tools I have seen. It's super cool, the things it can do. I'm excited for us to dig into it. And then we have some Azure SQL database stuff we are gonna do. Yeah, dude, peace out, Chaotic. Thanks for popping in, my friend. It is not a custom lab protagonist, at least not one that I made. It is a custom lab by this organization. Just discovered this organization over LinkedIn, pwnlabs.io. The lab that we are doing right now is completely free to do. So, yeah. Is this done? Okay, cool. It is done. Beautiful. So we have that installed. And then let's go ahead and install MFASweep. You know what else we probably need to install is Git. I don't think I have that. Okay, we need to install, like I'm telling you guys, this VM has nothing on it. So let's get Git installed. I'm trying to think what other tools we might need on a fresh VM. What up, Overgrown Carrot? What are we working on? We are doing Azure pen testing today. All right, that all looks good. Yeah, so Overgrown Carrot, I discovered this platform, dude, called pwnlabs.io, and they have all cloud stuff. And I've done quite a few different like cloud labs. This is the most realistic, the most fun that I've stumbled across. And the labs I'm doing today are completely free because I don't even have a subscription or a paid subscription, so anyone can join along. But I'm on a totally fresh VM. I wonder if I need to open new PowerShell. Totally fresh VM, so there's nothing installed on this Windows VM, so we need to get everything installed so we can work. All right, there we go. All right, now we can look at MFASweep. We'll copy that, and let's go to desktop, and we'll make a directory for tools, and we'll go to tools, git clone, and drop our information in here. All right, so we can import module MFASweep PS1. So we have it imported. And if we just do, well, let's look at how the proper use case of this. So MFASweep is a powerful PowerShell script that attempts to log into various Microsoft services using a provided set of credentials. And remember, we have those provided set of credentials based on that phishing attack that it talks about in the scenario. What's my Twitch username? My Twitch username is HackSmarter. I'll drop you a link. If you go to hacksmarter.live, you'll come across the Twitch. So depending on how conditional access policies and other multi-factor authentication settings are configured, some protocols may end up being left single factor. It also has an additional check for ADFS configurations and can attempt to log into the on-prem ADF server if detected. So currently it will log into Graph API, Service Manager, Microsoft 365, because if there might be MFA enabled on a bunch of those, but if we can find a service where MFA may not be enabled, we might be able to poke in and get access as this user. So that's the goal. And you can see our syntax right there. Pretty easy syntax. Can I just throw this to the side? So if we follow the syntax, invoke MFASweep username, and then we want to get our username from right here. And then I think just password, right? Password, and we'll drop in our user's password. So this script can attempt to determine if ADFS is configured. Yeah, we'll do that. And it says it's about to attempt logging in 10 different times. So this is noisy. So this is a red team exercise, and we want to be a little bit slower about this so we don't raise a bunch of alerts. But of course, it's a lab environment. That's fine. We'll just say yes. Go ahead and try to log in. And it's going to try to log into all these different services and tell us if MFA is enabled. Ken over on Twitch said, PowerShell is available on Mac and Linux. Would this work directly from those environments, or do you absolutely need a Windows VM? So I've done both, right? So at work, I run Ubuntu as my main OS, but as I've been learning Azure, although there is PowerShell for Linux or PowerShell Core for Linux, there are some things that just don't work very well when I try to run it straight from Linux. So even at work, when I'm doing Azure, I'm using a mix of Linux and Windows, but generally for some of these PowerShell scripts, they work a lot better on Windows is what I can say. Not saying you can't make them work on Linux or Mac, but from my experience, they just work nicer on Windows. But here we have our results. So we see that single factor is enabled on the Graph API and the Service Management API, so that we can authenticate to the Graph API without MFA, which Q, the coolest tool I've seen, created by, I believe, Black Hills InfoSec, called GraphRunner. But let's drop this in our notes here. So let's check out GraphRunner now. This is such a cool tool, y'all. GraphRunner is developed by the second coolest pen testing company. First being Rhino Security Labs. Second, I'll give to either BHIS or TCM Security. They can fight over it themselves. But this is a super cool tool. Let me Let's actually grab it real quick, and then we'll read through a little bit of the wiki so you can see everything that it can do. All right, we'll want to import our module. Import module, GraphRunner. Okay, cool. So if we go over to the wiki here, can I turn on dark mode or something on vanilla Chrome? There's like dark, isn't there? Oh, dark. Oh, beautiful. Oh, does it not apply to GitHub? Do I have to manually change GitHub? All right, whatever. We'll just let our eyes bleed. So GraphRunner is a post-exploitation toolset for working with the Microsoft Entra ID. Now, here is something Microsoft recently changed. You may have heard something called Azure AD. Azure AD is their IAM management, or their identity service for accessing Microsoft Azure services and Office 365 and stuff. Well, they just recently changed the name to Entra ID. So if you know it as Azure ID, every time you see Azure ID, think of Microsoft Entra ID. It contains various tools for accessing and manipulating data within the tenant. A Windows system. Oh, yeah, you're right. It is Windows system. Is it display settings or is it like theme? I think it might be theme. Yeah, theme and related settings. Then we can turn on dark mode. Maybe colors? Themes? Color? Dark. There we go. Much better. Now our eyes won't bleed. So there's 3 different ones. These are the ones I use. There's some cool stuff you can do with it. But let's just walk through some of this. So if we go to authentication, we first need to authenticate. And we can do that with get graph tokens. It's going to prompt us for our user. So we'll just copy that. And we can paste that in there. It's going to give us this device login. So we need to actually grab this URL and go to it in our browser. And then drop this code in there. Now we're on the dark web. You're right, Ken. Yes, it's me, bruh. Let's go to our user account. Okay, and we should get our token now. Beautiful. So it set it to our token variable. So now if we go back over to this right here, after running that, perform a device code, blah, blah. So we did that. And then we can refresh it. We don't need to do that. There's some different things we can do here. But if we look back at our scope, we need to do some data pillaging, which is the coolest thing this offers. So it says use MFASweep to identify Microsoft services where MFA hasn't been enabled. So we can mark this off. We completed that. Use GraphRunner to extract data from SharePoint, Teams, and Exchange Online. So let's first look at SharePoint. So if we go to our pillage models right here, you can search Mailbox. We want to do SharePoint. So here's SharePoint right here. So invoke, search SharePoint and OneDrive. Tokens, we pass it our token, and then our search term, right? I'm just going to search for password, but we'll grab this full command here. But let's just change this to password so we find everything possible. And the tokens is just the Graph API token we already authenticated with the credentials that were supposedly phished, at least in this scenario. So using GraphRunner, let's see if we can pillage some data from SharePoint and OneDrive. Okay, look, we found one match for the search term password. It's the file name finance logins, which sounds good. We have the full location to the SharePoint. We have a file preview, and it says, do we want to download the files? Well, of course we want to download the files. And it says enter the result number of the files you want to download. Where our result is 0, we just have that one, so we'll do 0. Do you want to download any more files? No? All right, so we have that. Let's open it up in File Explorer here on Windows. We'll go to Tools, GraphRunner, and Finance Logins. And there we go. We've already discovered some data. So we have the finance database. We have our accounting software, payroll system, bank portal, expense reporting. And hey, when you guys see something like this, before I became a pen tester, I always thought this isn't realistic. Organizations don't just store their passwords in Word documents. Oh, yes, they do. You would be amazed on an internal pen test how often I see this. Almost every assessment where you discover a document like this that literally just has a bunch of passwords for a bunch of software, even very sensitive software, just in clear text, because they just assume, well, no one's going to get to it, no one's going to find it. Oh yes, we will find it. So this is actually very realistic what we are seeing right now by pillaging through SharePoint and OneDrive looking for passwords. We see this in the real world quite often. So we have some information here. We'll just leave that pulled up, but we have that. And we'll see if we can do anything with it. I guess we could. Let's go ahead and just copy it so we have the information. And we'll drop that over in our OneNote here. And I'll just make a separate one. And this is where I really like Cherry Tree a lot more. I can use the hotkeys a lot easier than I can here. We'll call it financial login data, and we'll make it a subpage. And we'll just drop the information there. So now we have it saved. Now we can close our finance logins. Okay, so if we go back and look at our scope though, so we have SharePoint data, we have our financial logins, that's good. We might come back and use that data. And it says Teams. So you can imagine organizations use Teams. You can also imagine users are sharing passwords over Teams. So we can actually use GraphRunner to pillage that data. And I'll show you how we do that as well. Let's go back to the docs because RTFM. And if we scroll down a little bit, immersive file reader, invoke search team. So here we go. Invoke search teams, tokens. We pass it our token. We give it our search term, and we can give it a result size. So very similar to the OneDrive one, but let's go ahead and copy this, pull up PowerShell, drop it in there. Okay. So we have some more information here. We have this message from Clara Miller, which is of course us, and we have a password, openme123, which seems to go to a document. Call IT to reset my password for accounting system, blah blah. So for now, let's just copy all this information. Teams password is what we'll call this. And actually, so I told you guys, usually I go into these completely blind, but I did do this scenario earlier today on my work computer, not my personal computer, so I had to reinstall all the tools. This openme123 is actually for a file I missed initially. So the way I did it now is the way I did it when I attempted it, was just looking for passwords. But there's actually another file. It doesn't have any standing in the scenario, like it. By not finding this file, it does not affect whether or not you complete the task, because I completed the whole thing without finding the file. Then I read through and said, oh, I missed this file. So I want to actually show you this file that I missed where this password goes to. So if we go back to our OneNote, it was, I think, bonus information. Let me try that. Okay, yeah, so we have these bonuses, confidential. Do you want to download any of these files? Yes. And 0. And this is actually where that password we just found goes with this confidential file. And I didn't even look at this myself earlier today. I just skipped it because I saw it in the walkthrough afterwards. So we'll look at it. Maybe there is something there. Taking a little bit to download. And we'll see if we can figure out some bonus information. See who's getting bonuses and who, well, is not. Do you want to download more files? No. So now if we go back to our File Explorer, Desktop, Tools, GraphRunner, we have our bonuses. Oh my god, I don't even have Excel, bruh. I'd have to go download like an open source file reader. I could put it in Gmail, I suppose. Okay, let's just see if that works. I think I'm logged into my demo account. I'll go back to share my screen in a moment. Just want to see what Gmail I'm logged into. Oh yeah, this is my demo Gmail with all my spam email for YouTube videos. Okay, so here, let's just see if I can upload this file. We'll do file upload and we'll grab it from our desktop, tools, GraphRunner, and bonuses confidential. Okay, so if we go back to our password we found, this open me 123 right here, this is actually the password for this file so that we can open it. I think. Yeah, it did. So we have, what was our goal? Our goal is to find financial data, wasn't it? So this is actually a win, I suppose. Your goal is to gain access to, to customer records. Well, this is still definitely sensitive information you don't want exposed, right? We can see who is good. Oh, Clara Miller, that's us. 0, improve. Remember, she was phished, so look at her feedback. Improvement needed in security protocol adherence. Yes, I would say so. Improvement is needed there. Results fell short. Performance did not meet expectations. Can I edit it? Oh no, probably not. It's probably just gonna bug out. I was gonna add Tyler Ramsbey and give myself 1337 for the comment, lead his hacker around, but I guess I won't do that. You guys will just have to take my word for it. Okay, so we have our confidential data. And we pillaged our team stuff. I think the next thing was email, wasn't it? Teams, so we're done with teams. We can cross that out. We pillaged our team's data. We have some passwords from there. And now we want to look at Exchange Online. So we can actually go through user email boxes and see, hey, what information can we find in the user that we compromised? Okay. Looking over at chat, Protagonist said, this is kind of blowing my mind. I knew that Graph API was bad, but seriously. Yeah, dude, it's crazy. Dig into it. It's fascinating stuff because what might happen is often you'll see MFA enabled elsewhere, but it won't be enabled on something like Graph API. I actually did this on my own Azure account. So like, Rhino has an Azure account we use for testing, and I have an account in the Azure account that's a global admin. And from a low privilege user, what I ended up doing is I made a malicious app that pass OAuth authentication. So when you signed in, it looked like a legit app. It has a Microsoft domain and everything. But when my global admin signed into it, what would happen is I stole their access token to my low privilege user, and then I was able to authenticate to the Graph API as the global admin without requiring MFA, where normally MFA is enabled on my global admin. So this Graph API stuff is crazy, y'all, when you dig into it. Toastcat said, why you hacking, man? Explain yourself. Dude, I'm hack the planet, bro. No, this is a lab. I'm not hacking any real organization. I'm a pen tester for a living. So I hack companies for a living before the bad guys do. We're not actually hacking any real companies right now. This is a controlled lab. We're not breaking any laws. We're just learning. Okay. So invoke search mailbox. So similar thing, we're going to pass it our Graph API token and then any search term that we want in the message count 40. We'll literally just use that exact syntax right there. Clear our screen, drop it in, get a drink of water. You actually see we have some information here. We have a message preview. And it doesn't allow us to download it, it bugs out, but I think we have enough information right here. So let's look at this. We'll just on this main page. So this is from our email information. Yeah, Toastcat, you're right. So they are called bounties. So what I do, Toastcat, is like, this is my, I don't do this for bounties. Like I work at a 9 or 8 to 5 is my day job, but different big companies hire us, like banks, hospitals, you name it, hire us. And we do everything the bad guys do before the bad guys do it, and then we create a really detailed report for the company, and we tell the company, hey, here's how we stole data from you. You might want to fix this before, you know, Russia does it to you next, right? Before the real bad guys, the real bad threat groups do it to you. Fix this stuff. So we do it before the bad guys do, and we help companies secure their data. But to do that, we have to know how to think like the bad guys. We have to know how to break into organizations, how to exploit things so that we can help organizations secure their stuff. But okay, we have this. Now, if we go back to our goal, it says your goal is to gain access to customer records and demonstrate impact. And here we have a database that might have customer records on it because it's finance reports. So we might think credit card information or things like that. And we have a username that was being stored in an email. So for some reason we can't download the email and look at it. Do we have a... So it looks like Sam Olson sent this to our person. I forgot who we were. But with this information. So just sending emails or sending passwords in an email, just assuming this will be safe. It's in the user's inbox. Like it's not going to be exposed. No, it is going to be exposed. And now if we look at, here, OneNote. We have our username of finance report. So let's just break this down. We have a password for our username, reporting123. We have the name of a server. And we have the name of a database. And I think Clara is just our person. So we have 4 pieces of information. Now, if you think about Azure, this seems like an Azure database, and the most common database is the Azure SQL database. Now, when I was looking at the walkthrough for this is actually a part where I got stuck, to be fully transparent. I couldn't figure out a good way to connect to this, and in the walkthrough, they use a bunch of like magical PowerShell commands, and I thought there's no way I'm going to know the PowerShell commands. There has to be an easier way to connect to this, and I assure you there is when I did some Googling. So I want to show you this isn't the way they show you to do this in the module, but I'm going to show you the way I did it, and I think the best way. I think it's called Azure Data Studio. I think I'm going off memory. Yes. Dude, peace out, protagonist. Thank you for stopping by. Have fun at work. And we will go ahead and download Azure Studio now. This just gives us a nice GUI so we can connect to the database and see what information might be there. We'll do our user installer. Give it a good 20 seconds to download. Let me pull up chat, make sure I'm not missing anything. Out of curiosity, for y'all in chat, you guys ever done Azure pen testing? Is this brand new to you? Is this boring to you? Like, what do you think about some of this cool Azure stuff? I think it's cool. Hope this doesn't take too long to download. Yeah, it shouldn't take too long. All right, let's launch it. And we should, I think, be able to use this connection information, connect to this database. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, thank you, Toastcat. I appreciate the kind words, my friend. Let's go ahead and create a connection. And so we have our Microsoft, I think we need, Microsoft SQL Server will be fine. We need our server name, which I believe we have that information. Let's pull up our OneNote. So we have our server right here, their finance server. We're going to pillage some data from it. Authentication type here is going to be SQL login. You can kind of tell that based on our login information. It's not an Entra ID login, and it's not, of course, a Microsoft authentication. So let's go ahead and grab our username here, finance reports. Make sure you don't have the extra space. Grab our password. And then our database, wasn't that just called like finance or something? Yeah. Everything else looks good to me. Let's click connect. Boom, and we got to a database called subscribers. Let's double click that, I think. It's loading. I think we might want to actually... Let's see if we can edit data so we can see it. Boom. And look at all the information we would have if we were real threat actors. We could go sell this on the deep web right now. right? We would have just stolen a bunch of people's super sensitive information. We have their credit card number, we have their expiration date, we have their security code, we have their full name, we have their date of birth, and we could go take this right now, sell it on the dark web, make some cash. And this company is going to be in a bunch of trouble if a real threat actor was able to find this information. And then, of course, this was to demonstrate impact. We have our final flag right here so we can complete the scenario. So let's copy that flag and go back to our lab page right here. And let's enter in the flag. Submit. Boom. We have successfully completed the challenge. For those of you on stream, don't sign off. We're going to do another one. But for those of you watching the recording on YouTube, this is the end of this video. But don't worry, when this video is done, just jump to the next one and you can keep on learning right along with me. Peace.